on the show.
Yes, good evening. Good morning. Nice to be here again.
Okay, so Julian, the International ICT Awards started in 2007, right when the BPO and call center boom was taking shape in Manila. It's now 2021. We're coming from a pandemic year. What are some of the fundamental shifts that we're seeing in the industry? And are Philippine companies able to cope well?
Well, first of all, the industry has grown incredibly and become very well known and very successful prior to the pandemic. During the pandemic, it's had a tough time, like everybody. It seems to have adapted, and business events such as this are also having to adapt. It's a new environment for business events.
Okay, many are saying that, well, they did see tough times, just like all the other businesses. But in particular, the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic fallout have given the BPO industry a second wind as more multinationals try to cut costs and outsource. How much more potential or room for growth are you seeing for the Philippine ICT industry then, with this background?
Well, I think there's huge potential once we get over the immediate problems of the pandemic. Everybody's becoming much more familiar with ICT services, audio-visual, such as the one we're using right now, and they're realizing the business can be much more efficient. Even in the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, where we're working from home 100% virtual events, we're finding that our productivity has increased, and we're finding that our reach has increased. And this is due to not only the technological advances in ICT, but perhaps more important, with people becoming more familiar with it, not just the professionals. The average person in the average house is now becoming much, much more familiar using ICT services, from everything from banking to whatever they want to do. So this is bound to have a big impact on the market for ICT services, both the use of existing services and indeed the development of new services. That's what we're seeing.
I'm very curious, Julian, for the competition, are the companies mostly from the BPO sector, or do you also have, contenders from the banking sector, for example, the fintech startup side? When you look at the candidates.
Yeah, over the years, it's expanded. Initially, it was very much just the contact center BPOs. Over the years, we have expanded it, but it's limited to services, not the production of products.
Okay.
And we've been trying to health services, for example, various software development services, and so on. So we basically, over the year, seen a steady expansion. It's not been hugely rapid, but it's been slow and steady over the years.
Slow and steady. But Julian, I just wanted to bring this up. We have a graphics of this. We've come a long way, certainly, in ICT. The Philippines, from over 20 years ago, when we were just, an alternative to India's call centers. In fact, we're now leading in the voice part. And then there's a triangle. I hope we can flash that graphics with China and Mexico. India and the Philippines right on top of the pyramid. China and Mexico next in line. Then you've got Chile, Brazil, Poland, Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia there. But, even if we're leading, even if the Philippines is leading in voice, is there a threat that could eventually be phased out, that many are now moving up the value chain and the Philippines might not be catching up as quickly?
Well, there's a couple of things you're raising here. One, the Philippines had a tremendous advantage in voice because of your familiarity with the international language of English, and particularly with your style of speaking, which had a very relatively neutral accent and was therefore very acceptable globally. I don't think voice will ever go out of business. I think what you're seeing is add-ons and expansions of non-voice. So I think that if you want to really join and take advantage of the opportunities of the expansion, you have to build on what you have and build upon non-voice and artificial intelligence and so on in the services you provide. And that's where others have also quite a good competitive advantage. India has a very good reputation in non-voice. So I think the challenge for the Philippines is developing its non-voice capacity to its full potential. The potential is there, it has to be developed. But I don't think voice is ever going to go completely out of business.
Mm-hmm. Not go completely out of business, but do you see its share shrinking? Its share of the pie shrinking?
To the extent that other economies can develop the English language capacity in a style of English that is neutral and acceptable globally, I think that there will be more competition. So whether the pie shrinks or not, it depends how the Philippine voice industry adapts to the competition.
Okay. And final question, Julian. So the winners will be announced when, and how can we catch the main event?
The winners will be the finalists. The three finalists in each category and the winners will be announced on Saturday evening, the 19th of June, and on television, and also on Facebook Live. And the program will be kept on Facebook Live for 1 month for those who are otherwise occupied at the time of the announcement.
Okay, exciting. We're looking forward to seeing who comes out on top. Julian Payne, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having us. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, even remotely by virtual instead of being in the studio.
ICT at work.
That's ICT.
Exactly. Okay, thank you,
so much.
Julian. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Now, bye. Now, before we go for